Hi, it's Mary, and welcome back to Being Mary. Well, look at us. We made it a year. Honestly, when I recorded my very first podcast, I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. I was nervous, awkward, overthinking everything. And now that I think about it, not much has changed. But truly, a year ago, I sat down and recorded an episode called Why I'm Doing This. At the time, I had just published my memoir, and I remember feeling like I still had so many thoughts sitting inside me, questions, stories, reflections, things I couldn't quite organize neatly in my head. And somehow, this podcast became the place where I could lay them all out, almost like talking while walking. And if I'm being honest, I didn't know if anyone would listen. I truly didn't. I thought maybe a few friends, maybe family, maybe someone would accidentally click on it while trying to find a true crime podcast. But slowly something beautiful happened. People started listening. And even more meaningful than that, people started relating. Over the past year, I've talked about so many parts of life. We've talked about daughters and mothers, marriage and expectations, grief, friendship, aging, retirement, loneliness, starting over, pickleball tournaments, and even the smallest conversations with strangers. Some episodes made me laugh while recording them, and some made me cry. And apparently, some made some of you cry too. Sorry about that. But what surprised me most this year was realizing how many people are quietly carrying the same thoughts. How many women wonder, who am I now? What's next for me? Is anyone else feeling this too? And the answer is yes. Absolutely, yes. One of the greatest gifts this podcast has given me is connection. Messages from listeners, comments from women saying, I thought I was the only one. Or people stopping me in Petrolia and saying, I listened to your podcast, and every single time I'm surprised because in my head, I still feel like I'm walking around talking into my phone. But somewhere along the way, this became more than a podcast. It became conversations, a little community, a reminder that none of us are really as alone as we sometimes think we are. And I think this podcast changed for me too. Over the past year, I've become more comfortable sharing my thoughts, more comfortable being seen, more willing to speak honestly, even when it feels vulnerable. And maybe that's part of aging too, not being perfect, not becoming more than yourself. There's something else I realized this year. Sometimes healing doesn't happen in huge life changing moments. Sometimes it happens quietly during a walk, a podcast, a coffee with a friend, a message from someone who simply says, I needed to hear this today. And I think that's what being Mary has really become. Not advice, not expertise, not pretending to have life all figured out. Just honest conversations about being human. 1 year ago, I said this podcast felt like walking with a friend. And now, 1 year later, it still does. So thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing your own stories for me. Thank you for walking alongside me this past year. Whether you've listened from the beginning or just found me recently, I'm really glad you're here. And somehow, After a full year of talking, I still feel like we're just getting started. This is being Mary, and the best chapters are still ahead.